In this episode, we talk about the regulations concerning the cultivation, use, consumption, and selling of cannabis in India. We also talk about Jammu and Kashmir's state investigation agency conducting a raid on one of the region's oldest English newspaper houses. But we begin today by talking about the ongoing investigation into the Delhi Red Fort blast. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. What began as a single explosion in Delhi on the 10th of November, an explosion that killed 13 people, has now widened into a massive nationwide investigation. In fact, senior officials are calling it one of the most complex and fast-moving counter-terror probes in recent memory. In the days since the explosion, the case has expanded beyond the damaged I-20 car and the identification of the suspect behind its wheel. The Delhi police now says that the incident may be part of a broader conspiracy involving multiple individuals, coded communication, and possible plans for coordinated strikes in the capital and other cities. So to understand the scope of the investigation so far, my colleague Ichha Sharma spoke to the Indian Express's Alok Singh in this segment.
Alok, it's been over a week since the Red Fort blast, which triggered a multi-agency investigation. So what do we know so far about the suspected links and the terror module itself?
See, as of now, what the investigators are saying that this module is belonging to the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It's a old group and terror organization which is banned in the country. They keep spreading and their sleeper cells remains active in various parts of the country. So it is believed that they were also the part of that kind of sleeper cells who were handled by the handlers who are based in POK or Afghanistan. So the telegram chats and all these things what the investigators have got so far from the mobile phones of those who are arrested in this case, that is indicating that they were in touch with them and they were instructing them to do some terror activities or execute blasts at various parts of the country. When one person who was later identified as Umar Nabi, he was driving the car and the car exploded near the Red Fort. It was just near the Red Fort main gate. So the National Investigation Agency, which is investigating the case, they have found out categorically that it was a terror blast and he was acting as a suicide bomber and leaving around 12 to 13 people dead.
Right, and it was the Delhi police which started the probe, and then the National Investigation Agency, or NIA, joined in. So how did the investigation move forward then?
So initially the Delhi police found out that this car was belonging to Umar who was driving the car on the basis of the DNA tests which were done in the forensic labs and other scientific evidences like his mobile phone, like his car's registration number. All these things were all checked and found out that this car was bought 10 days before the blast from Faridabad's one of the second-hand car dealers showroom, and 2 lakhs rupees were given and it was all cash to bought the car. So definitely they were all planning to do something. And when the car was bought, the date what the police said on October 28th. So if we go back to the whole case, the case started from Jammu and Kashmir, when the Jammu and Kashmir police registered a case when they found out some posters were there in the valley.
Right, the posters were supporting the cause of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Jammu and Kashmir, and it was upon investigating this that the name of a doctor in Faridabad, Dr. Muzammil Ahmad Ganai, came up.
Yeah, so they later found out that there were some people who were based in Faridabad, that is very close to Delhi, and Uttar Pradesh's Saharanpur district, and they nabbed 2 doctors from these 2 places. The Dr. Muzammil, who was arrested from Faridabad, who was practicing in Al-Falah University, and Saharanpur's Dr. Adil, he was also arrested. So at the same time when Umar, because the Umar was also the part of their conspiracy, Umar immediately fled from Faridabad in the car, that Hyundai I-20 with the explosive in it, and that's how it all happened, because he was looking for an opportunity where to do the blast. We have reported massively about that, how he waited for the right time to execute the the blast. The whole day that he waited, he moved various places in the national capital since morning, and then later found out that that is the best place because the lot of crowd will definitely be outside the Red Fort, and then he executed the blast. So this is all has come out if you talk about the blast. But as far as the investigations are concerned, they have arrested two persons who were very close to Umar, and these two persons are Amir Rashid and another is Jasir Bilal Wani. So these two persons who are also from Pulwama, because Umar was also from Pulwama, but he was practicing in Al Falah University. So the investigators are probing these two people's role, and they have found out a lot of things into this whole conspiracy. As I already told you that these people were in the touch with their Pak-based handlers or the Afghanistan-based handlers. So the probe is already on.
And so Alok, what all do we know about Umar Nabi so far?
Yeah, so Umar is basically a doctor who was practicing in Al Falah University. That was illegal university. But he came from Pulwama. He's a native of Pulwama. And in fact, his family members are completely in shock. His sister have spoke with media. His brothers are also in the police custody. So they are saying that they don't know about his planning. They were just hoping that he's doing some practicing in Faridabad in the university. And definitely he will do some good for the family. But unfortunately, he was completely indoctrinated. And the way the video has come out, if you see that 2 days ago, there is a video came out, which is stated to be recorded by him in his personal mobile phone, and then he circulated in all the other members of the group, in which he is talking about the suicide bombing. He's justifying suicide bombing.
One of the very misunderstood concept of what has been labeled as suicide bombing. It is martyrdom operations. There are multiple contraindications. There are multiple arguments that have been brought against it. Martyrdom operations.
So definitely he was completely radicalized, and he and other members of this whole group or the module were in touch with the people who were based in out of the country. So the radicalized, and they thought that they will execute and they will take the revenge of Babri Masjid demolition, and all these things have come out that something was that they were in the grudge of something. We actually don't know because the agencies are still probing all these things. But yes, they were radicalized, and that's why they planned this execution.
And this video that you just spoke of, where Umar describes suicide attacks as martyrdom operations, and he says suicide bombing is a misunderstood concept. What do investigators make of this clip? Like, have they verified it yet?
See, what the Delhi police is saying that they are verifying it. NIA is saying that because it came out yesterday. So when it came out on the social media. We actually don't know how it appeared. But what we got to know from the NIA that there are many videos he had made. And after making those videos, he had sent those videos to many people. So maybe from them it has come out. So that's why now the central government has in fact asked the social media platforms to take down this video, because it's a kind of propaganda video. Definitely it may provoke the people as well. So that's why the video has been taken down from all the platforms. So we have to see about the video's authenticity in the coming days.
And also, Alok, is it unsettling for the investigators to see an assistant doctor like Nabi being radicalized this way?
Well, see, this is not new for the investigators, because we have seen in the past 10 years or 20 years, in fact, we have seen the youths getting radicalized by various Maulanas, Maulvis, those who are based out in their particular locality. In fact, in this case also one Maulvi is arrested. Remember that there were 3 people initially arrested by the Jammu and Kashmir police just before the blast. Number 1 was Muzammil Ahmad Ganai, second was Dr. Adil Ahmad Radar, and Dr. Shaheen Shahid. So these 3 people who were part of the conspiracy, although they were not directly or indirectly involved in the blast, but all they were radicalized. And Umar was highly radicalized. The way his video has came out, we can see that all these people were radicalized. So in the past, we have seen and in various operations done by NIA or Delhi Police Special Cell or UP's STF or anti-terror units across countries, they have found out that these youths are radicalized. In fact, this particular group, what we call them as the white collar module, because they were all doctors. But this time, the more shocking part is that they were highly educated, they were MBBS, and they were doing this. So this this part, we can say that some sort of shocking for them. But yes, we have seen in the past that there are engineers, many engineers, the boys who have passed out that MTech, BTech, they are also radicalized. So that is not new.
And Alok, earlier you spoke of investigators believing that this group was planning a series of blasts on the 6th of December, which is also the Babri demolition anniversary. Talk about what led agencies to this timeline.
See, these things comes out with the mobile phones chats, with the social media chats. So usually these groups takes the VoIP platforms, or we can say the internet platforms. They do not directly communicate with the mobile phones. They take the help of the social media, like these apps which I am talking about, Signal app and other apps. So with their apps, the police has found out that there are some code words which they were using.
Right, and sources in the police mentioned that code words such as D6, biryani, and dawat were used during conversations where the word biryani meant explosives and dawat referred to the day of the attack.
Yeah, so they are yet to decode them. But yes, definitely this clearly tells that they were planning to do something, whether it's on December 6th, that is the anniversary of Babri demolition, or in the coming days, because the persons who are arrested or in the custody of NIA, they have not properly telling the whole sequences. They are still connecting the dots, and their interrogations are on. All of them are in the custody. In fact, more than 10 days of custody of the NIA.
And Alok, we know that there has been widespread attention towards the Al Falah University and its hospital in Faridabad, where Umar and some co-accused worked. And quite recently, founder and chairman Javed Ahmed Siddiqui was also arrested by the ED. So what all do we know about this university and its link to the blast?
See, there are two lines of investigations. Number one is about the blast, which is done by the NIA and the security agencies. The second is the terror funding and also how this university was operational in this particular region. So when the agencies started the probe about this blast, they found out the owner or the chairman of this university, Jawad Ahmed Siddiqui. He was earlier arrested in the case of cheating in 2004, and he was in fact jailed for some time. Later he got bailed, and then he floated some investment companies, and in fact he floated around 9 companies. What the agencies are saying, these were the 9 shell companies, and with the help of them he opened this university and started. But after this blast, the agencies also found out that the university's accreditation was ended, and that's why the UGCs and NAAC, they also sent the notices. But when they found out that it needed some more deeper investigation, then the Delhi Police's crime branch in fact registered 2 cases, and later the case was transferred to the Enforcement Directorate because they found out that there were some money laundering happened. And that's why the ED registered a case of money laundering, which we call it the PMLA Act. And they arrested Javed Ahmed Siddiqui, who is a native of Madhya Pradesh. And following his arrest, they have found out that over 400 crores of cheating is allegedly done by Javed Ahmed Siddiqui and his partners. So several raids were also conducted at his houses, at whatever there he was owning the properties yesterday, and we saw that day before yesterday. So that's how the investigation is shaping up. But we don't know whether this university is directly involved with the blast or not. That is yet to ascertain. But yes, the whole conspiracy of this Red Fort blast, it is appeared that it was hatched in the campus of this university by the doctors Muzmil Ahmed Ganai and his other associates. That also include Dr. Umar, who was also the employee of this university.
And so, Alok, what's next for the investigation? Like, what aspects are the officials looking at now?
See, as I already told you, that there are 2 lines of action. One is about the conspiracy, and the second is about the foreign funding. So the foreign fundings, they are going to crack and they are going to connect that how much money they got by their handlers, how they got connected, when they got connected with them, who was the main conspirator of this. So yes, we have to wait and see that how the investigation will be conducted in the coming days. But lot of raids are still being conducted by not only NIA, but by the Jammu and Kashmir police, by the Delhi police and other state polices as well, so that they could ascertain and they could ensure that these kinds of things cannot take place in the future in any part of our country.
Now we shift our attention to regulations around cannabis. Earlier this month, the Kerala High Court dismissed a petition by a man who was looking to quash criminal proceedings against him for growing cannabis. The petitioner had been caught growing 5 cannabis plants on the terrace of a rented house. However, the court rejected his plea, citing that the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act of 1985 explicitly prohibits the cultivation of any plant of the genus cannabis. But the question here is, if cultivating any plant of the genus cannabis is illegal, then how is bhang, usually consumed during Holi, legal? To understand the NDPS Act in depth, how it works, and the exceptions under it, we are joined by Vineet Bhalla of the Indian Express, who reports on law for the paper. Vineet, tell us about the recent case that brought up this issue in the Kerala High Court.
So, someone in Kerala who was living on the terrace of some rented house, he had started cultivating 5 cannabis plants in pots on the terrace. And somehow, excise officials in the state, they got word about these potted plants, and they came and seized them, and they subsequently charged this person under the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. We'll call it the NDPS Act. And after this person was charged, he tried to defend himself by saying that he wasn't doing anything illegal because these plants had not yet fully developed. His argument was that under the NDPS Act, only the definition of ganja, which is an illegal substance, includes only the flowering or fruiting tops. These are words that I'm using from the Act. Only flowering and fruiting tops of the cannabis plant are illegal because they are part of the definition of ganja. And High Court went on to reject this argument, held him guilty under the NDPS Act, and now this gentleman is looking at a fine of up to 1 lakh rupees and possible imprisonment of up to 10 years.
And before we talk about anything else, can you tell us how does the Indian law define cannabis?
So there are 2 things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to cannabis. So the NDPS Act outlaws cannabis, and within the definition it includes both charas, ganja, or any mixture or drink prepared from the two. Now, charas is defined as the separated resin obtained from the cannabis plant, and ganja is defined as the flowering or fruiting tops of the cannabis plant. And this is crucial. The definition excludes the seeds and leaves of the cannabis plant. So, both charas and ganja as part of cannabis are outlawed substances. Apart from these, the NDPS Act also outlaws the cultivation of the cannabis plant, which is to say that you cannot grow the cannabis plant at all, and which is separate from possessing charas and ganja or using it or selling it for commercial or personal use.
But then, Vineet, we see that during festivals like Holi and Shivratri, people around us consume bhang. So does that come under the cannabis ambit? And if the laws are so strong, how come bhang is not illegal?
So, no, consuming bhang is not illegal. This is because of a clever workaround in the definition of ganja, and which is part of the definition of cannabis under the Act. Now, in order to explain why this is so, we'll have to go back into how the NDPS Act came into the picture in the first place. So the NDPS Act was enacted only in 1985 after India had signed an international treaty in the 1960s, which mandated that all the signatories have to outlaw cannabis through law. So in 1985, when India, under international pressure, mostly from the US and because of this treaty obligation, enacted the NDPS Act, it ensured that there is an exception in the definition of ganja so that bhang is allowed. Now, what this exception is that, as I earlier mentioned, the definition of ganja expressly excludes the seeds and leaves of the plant when not accompanied by the tops. Now, bhang is prepared with the leaves of the cannabis plant. So when you prepare bhang and when you consume bhang, it is not illegal because bhang does not fall under the definition of ganja and is therefore excluded from the view of the NDPS Act. But at the same time, this does not mean that bhang is unregulated. So there are different state governments have their own regulations, which is why you can legally obtain bhang from licensed dealers in certain states, whereas certain other states have outlawed it altogether.
But along with this, there is also the exception of cultivating cannabis for medical use, right?
So, under the NDPS Act, the state governments are allowed to cultivate cannabis only for horticultural and industrial purposes, such as obtaining its fiber or seed or oil or for medical use. This is why there are certain states, not very many, but a few like Uttarakhand, UP, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, which have in the last few years, since 2018 actually, started legalizing the cultivation of industrial hemp. They're also able to get away with it, so to speak, because hemp is a strain of the cannabis plant with very low levels of THC. THC is the psychoactive compound within the plant which gives the feeling of high when you consume the cannabis plant. So these state governments have been allowing the cultivation of industrial hemp. Then apart from that, the central government has also issued licenses to scientific bodies such as the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research to grow cannabis for medical research. In fact, in 2020, the first medical cannabis clinic in India opened in Bangalore. At this clinic, you're prescribed cannabis-based medicines for specific pain-related ailments.
And coming back to the NDPS, what are the kind of consequences one can face if they are found to be in possession of or cultivating cannabis?
Yeah, so under the Act, if you're cultivating the plant, which is what happened with this gentleman in the Kerala case, that offence attracts a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh along with rigorous imprisonment of up to 10 years. So you will face a fine, and along with that, you will also face imprisonment of up to 10 years. So it won't be more than 10 years, but it doesn't have to be 10 years. It could also be for like a few weeks or months or a few years, depending on the severity of the offense and whether the person has a criminal background and a criminal history or not. Apart from that, if you are found using or in possession of or selling or buying charas or ganja, then you face separate penalties based on the quantity of the drug involved. So for both charas and ganja, there are the law prescribes two different types of quantities, small quantity and commercial quantity, and the punishment is different for both. So for ganja, small quantity is up to 1 kilo, and for charas, it is up to 100 grams. So if you are caught with a small quantity of ganja or charas, you can face imprisonment of up to a year, a fine of up to 10,000 rupees or both. On the other hand, when it comes to commercial quantity, the limit for ganja is at least 20 kilos and for charas it is 1 kilos or more. So if you're caught with commercial quantity of ganja or charas, you face rigorous imprisonment of between 10 to 20 years alongside a fine of 1 to 2 lakh rupees. And finally, if you're caught with any amount of ganja or charas which is between small and commercial quantities, then you face imprisonment of up to 10 years and a fine of rupees 1 lakh.
And Vineet, given that weed is being legalized in many countries, have these bans and the NDPS as a whole faced any opposition, or has it been challenged over the years?
So there have been some challenges, none successful as far as I can tell. Since 2019, the Delhi High Court has been hearing a petition challenging the criminalization of cannabis. This is by an advocacy group called the Great Legalization Movement India Trust. It has argued that these restrictions on cannabis, specifically on the use and possession of small quantities, it's unscientific and arbitrary. However, this petition is still pending in the court. So it's been pending for the last 6 years, and I'm sure a lot of people will look forward to how the court decides that petition.
And in the end, we talk about the State Investigation Agency of Jammu and Kashmir conducting a raid yesterday on the office of Kashmir Times in Jammu. The Kashmir Times is one of the region's oldest English newspaper houses. The SIA said that the raid was a part of its probe into a case against the organization for its alleged involvement in criminal conspiracy with secessionists and other anti-national entities. The Indian Express's Arun Sharma reported that following the search, which began at 6 a.m. at the Residency Road premises, the SIA said that it had allegedly recovered 1 revolver, 14 empty cases of AK series weapon, 3 live AK rounds, 4 fired bullets, 3 grenade safety levers, and 3 suspected pistol rounds. The newspaper's owners, Anuradha Bhasin and her husband Prabodh Jamwal, issuing a statement, said that the allegations are designed to intimidate, to delegitimize, and ultimately to silence. They also called on the authorities to immediately cease this harassment, withdraw these unfounded allegations, and respect the constitutional guarantees of press freedom. Meanwhile, Jammu and Kashmir's Deputy Chief Minister Surinder Chaudhary commented on the raids and claimed that such action is only taken when wrongdoing is established and not for the sake of pressure. The SIA operation comes days after Jammu and Kashmir police said that they had busted a terror module in Faridabad. The module was allegedly connected to the car explosion near Delhi's Red Fort on the 10th of November, which killed 13 people. The police arrested at least 3 doctors from Jammu and Kashmir in connection with the module, while a 4th was seen driving the exploded vehicle. Now, the Kashmir Times was founded in 1954 by veteran journalist Ved Bhasin, Anuradha Bhasin's father. The newspaper has since stopped its print edition from Jammu and primarily operates online. According to the SIA, the charges against the organization includes disseminating terrorist and secessionist ideology, spreading inflammatory, fabricated and false narratives, attempting to radicalize the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, inciting disaffection and separatist sentiments, disturbing peace and public order, and challenging the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India through print and digital content. Arun Sharma writes that around noon, the SIA took the newspaper's manager Sanjeev Karni to the Gandhinagar residence of Jamwal for a search that lasted nearly 2 hours. Ved Bhasin's eldest daughter Anju Bhasin, the former vice-chancellor of Jammu's Cluster University who currently stays at the address, is believed to be abroad. Officials said that the SIA team also examined documents, digital equipment and other material as part of its investigation. The agency has said that it is likely to question Anuradha, adding that the operation is a part of the agency's ongoing action against networks suspected to be aiding separatist narratives or unlawful propaganda. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Ichha Sharma, Shashank Bhargava and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.